We are all a little depraved and debaucherous. Here is the king of podcasts.
Welcome to D&D. This is Kika Podcast here with you. Website is ddradio.live. And of course, you can find the show, subscribe. Please rate and review Apple Podcasts, Amazon, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find them. Spotify and Apple Podcasts specifically, please do that so we can go ahead and get more of the word out there on this program, which all of you do take time to listen to. And I really appreciate the audience that checks in the show every week. We're going to talk about the death of the dating game and the Generation Z impact, the young people and the way they're changing dating altogether. And I don't know what's changing, if there's just something where the peers, whoever's older than them, we have that generational gap right now where millennials, the older brothers, older sisters, nieces, nephews, weren't really a good help when it comes to dating because of their mistakes. Let me put it to you like this. So I had a lot of cousins that were older than me. Now many of them are remarried. But for a handful of cousins of mine, and one of my brothers, they all got married early, mid to late 20s. And in significant ways, they dated someone they were with and went through the proper thing and went and married. And some did have kids as a result. But for whatever reason, the marriages did not last. This is the 90s, by the way. And then for whatever reason, all of them would get into different relationships after that, and then would get into something more stable coming into this decade, into the 2010s, and into the 2020s. I'm Generation X. And for me, dating was different. You could go ahead and date. We didn't completely get ourselves attached, at least until 18 years old, until I got into college. I really didn't use computers or the internet because it wasn't really available to me where I was at in a small town. When I moved into, the intern of Palm Beach County, West Palm Beach, and I moved over here, and I went to college, FAU, Florida Atlantic, and I was able to get in front of computers with the internet. Whole different story, but it still took a while for me to go and get into regularly being on the internet, having the DSL in the mid 90s, and then being able to go ahead and move around and navigate and use websites. Up until basically the iPhone, dating apps were not anything of anything, but that's what changed it all. It's funny, I watched a BlackBerry movie 2 weeks ago. Great movie, by the way. The story about how that was the phone that was the talk of the talk in 2006, 2005, the Crackberry. And then everything changing with the iPhone and the App Store and all that they did. And we're 16 years after that, up to iPhone 14, and look at what's happened. Everything has gone upside down. Apple basically single-handedly changed the way the dating game is. And now we're going to the 16th year with the iPhone. All these dating apps, we have a completely different generation of users and adopters going on the dating apps, and they're not doing it the same way. The dating game is gone. It's dead. And if there is a dating game, it's not a fun game to play anymore. It's not. It's actually not fair. It never was fair. But now it's even worse than it ever was before. And that's a problem. So there's a couple of stories I took that really did put the whole thing across. Now, when I let ChatGPT write about this, they said that there's a growing possibility of the demise of traditional dating games. Gen Z has an emphasis on authenticity and directness. And that as where individuals are encouraged to express their intentions clearly and openly. This is why we were talking about goblin mode a few weeks ago. Oh, yeah, be yourself. Because remember, there was a time where you were dating and you were kind of filling a role. But then you eventually did that in order to then adapt and then adopt and then to evolve into who you really are. Like you did what you need to do to attract a mate, attract a partner. And then you started growing into who you really were, your real habits. You were able to go and be yourself. But you had to play this dating game in order to be attractive, in order to attract. Well, now, that's what they're saying here. The Gen Z doesn't want to do that anymore. They don't want to take the effort. I don't want to say it's so much laziness as it is it's like this idea of that dating doesn't matter, or love and relationships don't really matter. It's not like they're all of a sudden wanting to get into love and they're really doing that. But there's this whole thought process of how dating is still supposed to be a thing. And those that do try to date are being ruined horribly by the acts of dating and how boys are not acting like boys anymore. The masculinity in boys is dropping a lot. You can see that because there's this idea where I don't see this so much in women and young girls, but like young boys, you could just tell they're not out there doing the things that we did, even, a decade before. They're not going out to play. They're not outdoors doing stuff. They're not, playing sports or being athletic or competing with each other. It's a lot of video games, a lot of anime, a lot of comic books, a lot of just internal stuff, and a lot of online and not actual interaction, human person-to-person interaction at all. But social media takes up all the timing, because then with social media, it's like, well, now young girls want to go and compete with every other young girl out there in the world, which is impossible to do. The beauty standards now become heightened to a point where it's all impossibilities. All these young people, you're not going to get to accomplish all these things that everybody else does. The status seeking, the posing. We see it in Florida. Where I'm at in South Florida, it's ground zero. You can't do it. It's impossible. But we didn't have these kind of expectations. We just had the expectations we saw around us. And that's all that mattered. But now it's changed. And it's so much different than before. It's unfortunate. But now we're at this point where Gen Z and their impact on the dating landscape cannot be underestimated. They want authenticity. Digital dating culture, they're reshaping the way people connect and interact. Tinder and other dating apps are adapting to meet the evolving needs. Platforms that prioritize transparency and inclusivity. Now, they say the end of dating games may not be absolute, according to ChatGPT, when I asked. But the approach to relationships has undoubtedly ushered in a new era of dating, more open, honest, and reflective of their values. But nobody wants that off the front. Let me tell you this. Let me be clear. I tried to be honest in relationships. I tried to be as honest and as open and as transparent as I could possibly be. You know what? Women didn't want to hear it because it wasn't so much of me being the attraction where, listen, I'm average attraction, okay? I am not putting myself up there on a pedestal. No. I'm of average attraction. And I know that some women that might feel a little bit different about me, and that would be nice. Don't really run across them too much, but my thing is, I had to work off personality to really persuade and really get together with a girl that I was really interested in. But for the most part, that girl wasn't interested in me if I told her what I was into. I mean, I'm into radio, I'm into television. I mean, I'm not necessarily, I was into journalism at the time. It wasn't necessarily anything exciting or fun about it. Especially not until the internet came in. Radio, nobody was really interested until podcasting came in, and then podcasting, oh, that sounds so cool. But if I told anyone I was into radio and I was a journalist, I didn't care. It didn't matter. It wasn't important. So what I did for a living didn't really make much of a difference. And at that point, in my teens and 20s, I haven't gone out anywhere. I haven't done any traveling. I haven't really done anything in terms of much. All I did was I inputted. I took in a lot of movies, a lot of music, a lot of TV. But that's the stuff I could talk about. But it wasn't everybody. So there wasn't a lot I could talk about a lot of things to a lot of people. A lot of like-minded conversations. So it was different. I wasn't a big drinker. I didn't smoke. I didn't do drugs. I mean, I was just different on that. Now, there's a purity part that the Gen Z also does as well. But there are some people that try to go and do dating because that's just what they see in a movie. They're trying to replicate, but not totally into it. And the boys, the expectations they have and what they see, whether it's in movies, in animation or anime or mangas that they're reading or the movies they watch or the music they listen to, and whatever they're getting in terms of thought process, like, there are things that are being told and certain things that certain peers are getting in their heads that's acceptable. And I'm like, all right, well, it's really clouding the judgment, clouding the clear path for a man to be successful, for a man to find a beautiful woman or a woman that they like and be attracted to. Now, here's what's going on. I noticed that the people that are kind of like-minded, that, you know, like the nerds or like myself, they're starting to get an easier go of meeting each other and dating, because of doing it on the internet, it actually just works better for them. And they find a way to go and connect. But when it's the popular people, and it's like the everyday people that will be able to go out, and a young girl is, you know, attractive and beautiful and just has natural, remember, a young girl out there and not being able to go and find a good guy and not having the right direction or any kind of structure to go outside and have some male or female or dominant or submissive, you know, guidance and mentorship to know how to pick the right person for them. For young girls, it shouldn't be that hard. You're not having to work that hard on the makeup. You don't have to work that hard on the clothes. It's like teens and 20s, it should be easy, honestly. I know it was for me to find plenty of girls that I thought were beautiful. Plenty. And I thought we would have a thing where people were much more acceptable of each other, more accepting of each other. But I guess not. Because social media changed that. If social media wasn't around, if we didn't have social media, different story. I think if we didn't have that, it would be a game changer. But nobody does that. Everybody's got to be on social media for some reason. I keep seeing myself, like, I use it as a necessary evil. Like, I really don't care what I see on social media. It doesn't really say anything. I can get information off of it. I can learn some things, and I can get something. Like, TikTok is one thing I feel like really does give me value. And I feel like I'm not wasting my time when I get on there, because I'm not taking a whole lot of time on it. But I get a lot from it. I get to really learn the culture from that. So when I look at what's going on, Mashable puts a very interesting story about Gen Z challenging the way we date, and Tinder put out a report about it. So Tinder has a future dating report for 2023. They summarize that we are entering a dating renaissance driven by Gen Z's desire to disrupt dating and the relationship norms carved out by previous generations. Here's what they learned. 18 to 25-year-olds. They make up more than 50% of Tinder's user base. So if you want to get any marketing, you want to get anything in front of people 18 to 25, men, women, non-binary, you go to Tinder. 75% of these Gen Z feel they're challenging dating and relationship standards that were passed down to them. Over half of millennials surveyed think dating is healthier for 18 to 25-year-olds than it was when they were their age. I don't agree. I think the more and more we have social media, the more it becomes harder for the dating game to happen. Because there's so much exposed out there, too. I mean, there's enough women and enough guys out there that talk about their dating lives and what they've experienced that you kind of know everything. Like, nobody can get past you anything these days. Ages 33 to 38, 73% of them said dating games, such as playing hard to get, giving mixed signals, were widely considered to be normal when they were 18 to 25, which was for me too. Yes, mixed signals, playing hard to get. That's not happening anymore. But the thing is, we're not getting playing hard to get at all. What we're getting is not playing at all, giving up, surrendering to the dating game. And mixed signals, that's because some people don't want to be in it. And now women don't want to play the playing hard to get. They don't want to give the mixed signals. What they want are unicorns. The bulk of women, I'm going to say more than half, they want the unicorn. They want attraction, appeal, success, wealth, in some cases, or well off. They want everything. Meanwhile, the women have been positioned and programmed to say, well, they don't have to do the effort if they don't want to. And even the ones that do put in the work, they're struggling and they can't find what they want because there's not enough of those guys for them. There are plenty of beautiful women out there. Plenty. I go by the mall every day, almost every other day. And I see what's out there. Listen, it's not like the clothes are any different. Listen, I see a lot of girls now in gym wear. They're in leggings, yoga pants. You know, They're dressed down. They still look great. Still beautiful. I mean, there's a lot of girls that at least have done the right thing where when they're young, they haven't done anything to start altering the look or degrading their look. A lot of young, beautiful girls out there. But, we don't have the things where we used to have play hard to get, where in this story they say that for 18 to 25-year-olds, a third of them are less likely to ghost someone over the age of 33. And they don't have to worry about waiting hours or days to respond to a message to play it cool. That's the other part. The whole thing of waiting to get a call or a text or a whatever. If you're not getting that instant gratification of a answer back, well, that's gone too. 77% of users on Tinder respond to a match within 30 minutes, 40% within 5 minutes. How about that? Because we're all tapped into our phones and we get the messages, we get the notifications. 77% of Tinder users respond to a match within 30 minutes. So what about those that don't get any matches at all or any responses? Out. As I talked about authenticity, well, that's at the top of the list when younger daters are looking for. 78% of Gen Z prioritize respect in partners. Almost 80% prizing loyalty as an important quality. 61% valuing open-mindedness. Now, this is not the entire swath of people on Tinder. Let's make sure of that. It's the ones that were surveyed. So Gen Z is using Tinder a lot. A group that continues to influence society, challenging restrictive norms in the most profound of ways. Well, let me tell you, I haven't been on Tinder in a little bit because I could tell you have to be between 18 and 25 to really play in it. And remember, you're not going to find that many of your like-minded unless you go outside your area. For some of them, people, they'll think, oh, well, we need to go and look 20, 30, 50, 100 miles, 200 miles, other states, other countries to find someone they want to be with. They don't really think that's the actual case. I don't like that it's happening like that, but it is. And it's unfortunate. So another story I want to take is from Psychology Today, the harsh reality men face on dating apps, because the dating issues really affect men the most. Women are affected by the fact that their expectations now are at a fever pitch, at such a high filter. There's no such thing as a middle ground. There's no such thing as taking someone for their quality, their relationship, for their personality, for who they are and what they contribute and what kind of person, what quality person they are. It's all superficial now, more than ever. For women, it's superficial, and it's much more resources and access to what they want and what they can get from said guy or girl or whatever. You think I'm kidding? Do you honestly think that I would say that and that you don't realize that's actually happening? Look at the writing. It is. It's absolutely working like that. By the way, I bought a brand new canteen. It's Adidas water bottle, a quart. It's all chrome and it's double walled. Oh, I love this thing. It's a game changer for me. Bought it at Ross for $15. It was normally like $34. I love it. So happy to get it. So back to Psychology Today. So recent data suggests physical attractiveness exceeds warmth, intelligence, and income in women's preferences. Keep this in mind. This is the studies now. We're going through facts now. We're actually going through science and research. This is not me trying to go and do I'm saying every woman is like, I don't need a man. And I'm not one of these alpha male radio shows here. Like, understand, I am not doing that. I'm honestly trying to be here as an older counterpart, Uncle King of Podcasts here, okay? Trying to help out all of you at my age or younger, going through what I've understood, going the interactions I've learned, and all the research I've done to offer some kind of help here, or just some kind of guidance, or something just to give you like, hey, listen, you're not alone. There's a lot of people that are single, and a lot of people that are in relationships that are struggling in relationships, or not happy. Or they like to just listen to this and say, hey, what is he saying? What's this depraved and debaucherous thing all about? Because if you're not in a happy, sensible, loving relationship, you're basically depraved and debaucherous in some way, shape, or form. Doesn't mean it has to be sexual, but it's true. We all are. I know I am. I'm A number one, depraved and debaucherous. That's why I called it a show. And there is some public dating app data, that suggests a high consensus of the most attractive users. And daters should strike up a conversation within 24 hours on a dating app. So in the UK, app users spend up to almost an hour a day perusing profiles. And users typically turn on the app for shorter bursts of time in the morning and the evening. Hinge, 23 million users. Time constraints and sheer number of perceived matches replicates a speed dating scenario. What is the impact of physical attractiveness, income, warmth, and intelligence on female dating preferences in this scenario? Well, they're going through a study from Professor, his name is Wolzen, from 2020. Given the primacy of photos and limited time spent on each profile, participants privileged physical attractiveness above every other variable. Characteristics like income, intelligence, and warmth were only weighted after establishing there was physical attraction. Bingo. We've been asking about this for a long time. Here is the answer. So take that. This is, by the way, eHarmony Labs that has put out there. Addicted to Love is their study survey. So it's out there, and it's explaining it. So if you didn't know this, this is the case. I'm going to go to eHarmony right now and talk about it. 44% of singles feel as if they're not good enough for the people they're interested in. 8% have more than 15 conversations on the go at once. Correct. It doesn't really make much of a matter at all. Now, back to Psychology Today. The bottom line is that dating apps don't have to appear to have given a leg up to those perceived as less physically attractive. Bingo. It's only about how you look. The hot or not dynamic that came back, in the 90s? Around Plenty of Fish? Hot or not? Remember that got all popular? And that's what basically became what was the early indicator, the early pioneering, which would end up being Tinder. And Tinder's been around for over a decade. We actually talk about that on the program. There was an analysis by Hinge engineer Aviv Goldgeir, and it was widely reported but now deleted. In 2017, they suggested that men initiate matches 3 times more often than the women, and that 50% of their attempts or likes with just 25% of the women on the app at that time. More than 50% of women's likes just went to 15% of men. And the biggest opportunity for the greatest number of men is to first illustrate their personality, warmth, and wit on the profile, responding to prompts or drafting charming about me sections, and trying to create an emotional connection between 24 and 48 hours after matching on a dating app. Especially on something like a Bumble where only women can initiate conversations and matches disappear after 24 hours. And 3 tips they talk about in this story is knowing physical attractiveness is so central on dating apps. Choose 4 to 6 photos of your favorites with great lighting. Create engaging captions that are authentic and can serve to foster communication, and strike up a conversation within 24 hours of matching. That's what you have to do now. And they even say in the story that dating seems to be harder for a growing number of men who may be chronically and involuntarily single and sexless. I'm one. It's just, that's how it works. It's not like I wanted to be like this, but there's a lot of men like me that have just given up. We just stopped. And younger people stopping dating. That's a shame. I don't like it to be like this. And I don't want to be like those alpha male shows that you just do it without. And just, you make yourself successful and get richer and get buff and get muscular. And then the women are going to come to you. Well, you know what, whatever. But then it's going to be like nothing. You ain't going to find anyone to marry and all. And then there's the passport bros, right? They go out and wherever countries they have to go find some woman that's a wife. We shouldn't have to be doing this. But that's the problem now. And it's greatly unfortunate, but what else can we do? I don't like it like this, but we have no choice. Anyway, that's the show tonight. Thank you for listening to Depraved and Debaucherous, which is part of the King of Podcasts radio network. Of course, all my programming is at ddradio.live. That's the website for the show. And then as for everything else, you can find yours truly and all my content over at kingofpodcasts.com. Kingofpodcasts.com, which is where everything's at. You can find everything about going with me and what I'm doing with the show on a regular basis. And remember, you can always catch shows over here every week. If you want to go ahead and ask anything here on the program, please go ahead and follow my YouTube at King of Podcasts. I'm also on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and TikTok at King of Podcasts. And until next week, come back and just remember that, you can try to deny it, even though you're trying to go on dating apps, you're trying to find somebody good, you feel like you're upstanding. But if you're single, you've been struggling, you're giving up, or you're still trying, you're probably a little depraved and debaucherous.